Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast season 2, ladies and gentlemen. Season 2 is 100% committed to one of my favorite subjects. Hashtag
winning.
Hashtag
winning.
But not today, ladies and gentlemen,
Nope.
because Bob Stewart,
That's me.
Chad Hyams,
Yes, sir.
awkward pauses, ladies and gentlemen. We are not talking about winning today. We are talking about the yin and the yang, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not winning, you're
Losing.
we don't want to be.
Losers.
But for sometimes we actually do lose. And sometimes it's not all that bad of a thing. In fact, sometimes we even learn a little bit from losing, don't we, Chad?
Yes, we do, Ben. Let me give you the dictionary definition of losing, because I like to be so technical about it here.
Keep it going, Webster.
Suffering, resulting in or relating to defeat in a game or a contest. So even in the dictionary definition, there's this idea that losing is related to suffering.
Like 50 Shades of Grey suffering?
That's a different kind of suffering.
Not that type. Bob,
Not
what were you
that
going to
type
say?
of
This is like the 5th time you brought up 50 Shades of Grey in our podcast history. I was gonna say, like, even the dictionary makes us want to think that like losing is this bad thing.
Yep.
Right? We're supposed to suffer through it. And look, we don't like to lose, right? But we are going to lose, Ben. So it doesn't always have to be a suffering thing, even though, Chad, technically the dictionary would tell us it does.
Suffering is the first word in the definition, yes.
I've become quite an expert on losing in my life.
That's a
with
good
one
thing.
exception. Weight. It does not fall off, ladies and gentlemen. I have to work really hard at losing to that one.
And you keep finding it.
Yeah. Oh, it's like a penny in my pocket.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we have the right mindset, we can actually take our losses and use it as fuel for our fire. Now, Chad, we go through this process. We think we're going to win. We get all dressed up. We get all dolled up to go out to our race,
Yep.
right? And we show up and we lose. Or we go prepare for this project, or we start this business, or whatever it might be.
Yep.
What actually happens inside us? What are we feeling and thinking in those moments when we're actually losing?
There's a whole bunch of things that'll happen, Ben. The first thing that happens is we rationalize why. So we immediately start to rationalize why we lost. Well, you know, I was wearing my old shoes on that race. Or, you know, that guy was an inch taller than Bob on the basketball court. So Bob will start to say, yeah, he had a little bit more of a reach on me. We always rationalize why in our head immediately.
This starts in childhood, by the way. My son, we played Candyland last night, and when he lost, he immediately went to, well, Dad, you got the sucker, you know, and you got to go all the way up to the front because you got the sucker. He's rationalizing why he lost, right? Yep. I mean, this is like ingrained in us. It's in our DNA. Almost.
Now,
Did you allow him to do that, Bob?
No.
What'd you do? Do you slap him down? Take that kid and just say, no, it's not the sucker's fault.
2021, you can't smack your kids around anymore, Ben. That was us growing up in the 80s, buddy. But no, I told him, listen, it doesn't matter. Like, you lost, right? Suck it up. You can be a good loser. And next time maybe you get the sucker or the whatever. I don't know. That's very common, right? We start to look for the reasons why we lost and try to put it into, we rationalize it. Because at the end of the day, we don't like to lose.
No, what's the second thing that we do when we're losing, Bob?
Look for places to lay blame.
It's your fault, Bob Stewart.
You. That's right.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Chad's fault, actually.
Wait a minute. Why are you both pointing at me?
Yeah, if only the quarterback would have threw me the ball more often. Or
It's not always on people either, right? We lay the blame on our
Environment.
tools or our environment.
The
or
weather, the whatever we want, right?
the
It was
person we
someone
were
else who made
competing
me
against.
late.
They cheated or they did this or...
Right.
Yeah.
Happens all the time in sports, in business, everywhere. We always look to blame others. You know, Ben, the third one is repeated losing leads to a lack of self-confidence that'll come with it. So if we're losing too often, sometimes our self-confidence will truly get beat down.
yeah, we lose that confidence. And over time, we can actually create a habit in our life of losing. We talked earlier in season 1 about creating a habit of quitting. It's actually the same thing. What's the difference between winning and losing in some situations? Just who gave up first.
Yeah, absolutely.
The second place, he just gave up just a little bit sooner than the first place.
Yeah. There was an interesting study Bob and I were both talking about as we were going through it. When you say it like that, Ben, that I'm going to just throw in right here. We were doing some research on this, and the studies have shown happiness, the gold medal winner in the Olympic sports is always the happiest of the three that end up on the podium, of course. But interestingly enough, the bronze medal winner is happier than the silver medal winner, because the bronze medal winner looks back and says, hey, at least I got a medal out of this, so he's happy. Whereas silver starts to create that, maybe I gave up that second too soon. Maybe it was just that 1 second I didn't push hard enough. All they can do is think about they didn't win gold.
You're not going to believe this, Chad, but in high school, I ran cross country.
I don't believe it.
Bob Stewart.
And that's
first.
Bob. That wasn't even me. I couldn't even get the words out.
So I was at this race at the metropolis of Granite Falls High School in Washington State, and I'm running, Chad. And I see this guy, and I'm almost to the finish line, and I see this guy in front of me, Bob Stewart, and I'm like, I can catch this sucker. And I sprinted as hard as I could, and I screamed past this kid, and I crossed the finish line just in time to be second to last.
Better last. You beat that.
It was the
kid.
closest I ever
Absolutely.
got to being dead last. I was right there, Bob, but I said, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to be dead last. In that situation, Chad, I was happy to be second
There you go.
to last.
Right? It's the
Yeah.
same study that comes from it. But what will happen is if you keep coming in last and last and last, like you said, Ben, a habit gets created and self-confidence will get damaged in there.
Chad, really quick, another study that we came up. So there was a study out of I think University of Chicago, I think. I have to go back and look, but they said that near losses, people that have a near loss actually end up in the long run better than the person that just nearly beat them.
Yes.
So they did a study on people that had went to try to get grants for educational grants, and the people that just missed the grant, they look back at these people 10 years later, and they had ended up 10 years later getting more grants and publishing more papers than the people that had actually won the grants that those people missed. So we can lose. We don't have to let it be something that long-term affects us.
You know, Bob, when we were starting our tech companies, I went out there and talked to venture capital people, and I got turned down and turned down and turned down. So we went off and said, hey, we're going to go do this on our own. We got a little bit further. We thought we were big enough. We went out there and talked to venture capital people and private equity groups, and we got turned down and turned down and turned down. I lost, and it was so deflating to get the Dear John letter at the end that said, hey, sorry, you're not a match for us. It's not a big enough opportunity, whatever their thing was, right? But what it taught us to do is it taught us to run a business on the money that we had. So instead of spending other people's money, we had to go find a way to make money, to sell our product. In order to keep selling our product, we had to improve our product. In order to keep money coming in, we had to make sure we didn't lose our customers. It actually trained us to run a better business because of these losses, these failures in my mind during that time. And I'm so grateful for that. One of the things that happens in losing is we respond emotionally. And we're doing that to kind of make up for this feeling of losing or having lost something.
A great example of that would be like in the stock market, right? Man, we like to trade stocks, right? You get into a stock and that thing bombs, and tomorrow you wake up and you lost, and you're like, I got to make up for that. I got to make up for yesterday, right? And you go and make potentially irrational decisions based on the loss you took yesterday, right? You're in this, they call it in poker on tilt. You're on tilt, right? You've lost a few hands in a row. Now you start betting on hands that you wouldn't have bet on had you not been losing.
You double down, you double down, you double down until you're all the way out.
Yeah.
I played blackjack that way. It was not successful most of the time. These emotions, what do they cause our brain to do?
Well, they'll cause us to overreact.
Yeah.
They'll cause us to get overly cautious,
Yeah.
right? They'll cause us to not want to repeat that mistake because we know the feeling that's about to come from it. So
Which means we won't even try it.
yeah, we just stop. We just
Yeah.
give up. You know, I've lost in the stock market before, so okay, I'm just not buying stocks. Doesn't mean that that's the right decision. Or I've lost at the blackjack table enough times, I'm not going to. Or I came in last at that race enough times that I'm just going to give up running.
This is
whatever
another
they
one
are.
of these things. I look at my boys. I look at my kids. They're 4, right? Like kids at 4, when they lose, they get emotional, right? But a lot of
Is it
times,
because they lost, or is it because you took away their participation ribbon?
well, we don't do participation ribbons, Chad. So
All right,
it's
just checking.
probably maybe it's both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But they they want to stop playing. They want to quit. And it's very common, right? I'm losing. Finally, I'm like, I'm done with this. Like, I don't even want to be in this game. Like, you could have wanted to quit when all those different investment bankers said, yeah, I don't think so, bud. Right? I mean, you could have drove you out of the game.
I did want to quit. Somebody asked me, hey, why is it that you never sold your tech companies? And I simply said, well, nobody called me on the right day. there was plenty of days I would have gave them a hell of a deal. They just didn't call me on the right day. I talked to this old couple who I went to it must have been their 50th or 60th wedding anniversary. They got married pretty young, and they're in their 80s. And I walked up to Ray and Gert, and I said, so what's the secret? They said, to what? I said, to staying married this entire time. And they're just an amazing couple of people. And she looked me in the eyes, Gert did, and said, neither one of us gave up at the same time. When I hear this word lose, I want to make sure that we differentiate between lose and lost. Lost, it's done.
Right.
Lose, we just happen to not have won today, right? And in our conversations, like in sales, I'll hear one of my salespeople say, I lost the sale. It fell apart. It was pending, and now it's not going to close. And I'll quickly go back and say, are they never going to work with you again, or are they just not buying that product? 90% of the time, they'll say, oh, no, they're still going to buy. So, well, you didn't lose anything. Right. You might have postponed your paycheck or your bonus or your commission, but you didn't lose. The key to that is understanding that how we talk to ourselves affects ourselves. Right?
Which is why losing is such an important thing for us to be studying in a season focused on winning.
Yeah. How do we study losing well?
Right.
How do we know the difference between when we've lost or when we just have not won in one particular situation? The other thing we have to understand is that there's actual physical effects.
Yes.
To our bodies, our minds, right? Our energy from losing.
Yes.
Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, it's amazing with the focus that you've given us to take to the podcast, the 15-point plan, and we hope our audience has checked out your 15-point plan that we've turned into a standalone podcast. We've been focused on health and the benefits that come from it. Losing actually will change your blood pressure. Losing will constrict thousands of muscles. It'll impair decision-making. It'll elevate stress, reduce testosterone. Guys, you do not want that, right?
We don't need too many losses.
Don't need that.
Especially when we're getting into our 40s, gentlemen.
That'll lead to other
We don't need many losses.
Yeah. It'll cause dopamine deprival. And that's one of those things that we need to help us have the energy to get through a day. And there's other effects, Bob. There's some other psychological effects that come along with it.
Physiological. It's just, Chad, you can actually feel it in your body. Ben, you were a wrestler. I'm sure there were, when if you can think back, I have very vivid memories of the actual feeling in my body when we would lose like a big game in sports. For me, losing, my brain probably most correlates it to sports, but like it hurt. Like it actually, you're depressed and your shoulders are slumped. And I mean, it's a real physical thing. And if we don't build skills to be able to cope with those losses, like I'm sure you walked out of a few investment bankers' offices with your shoulders slumped, pit in your stomach, maybe a headache, or right. We have to build coping skills to deal with these things because we're going to take a lot of losses.
Yeah, we lose some of the mental strength. What would that be, Chad? Our optimism, our hope, our
determination.
Even could put us into a fit of depression.
Yes.
So let's think about losing real quick here. The moment that you've lost something or that you are losing, what do you do about it? Well, here'd be an example. If you didn't learn anything from that situation, you've truly lost.
Yes.
So if you learn something from it, maybe you're actually winning. Mm-hmm. So the very first question you should ask yourself after you've lost is, well, what did I learn?
Right.
What am I going to do different next time? How could I be better prepared? What's step 2? Make a plan so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing worse than consistently losing time and time again, right? It'd be like me, Bob. I don't have a lot of like hand and eye coordination. Like you've seen me throw a water bottle at the garbage can 17 times in the same meeting and miss every single time. And people say practice makes perfect, but I could practice doing that the same exact way 1,000 times and I would still suck at trying to get a basketball in a hoop unless
Practice perfectly.
I
You made a
learn,
plan. Yeah,
I come
somebody
up with a
helped you.
plan, I figure out a better model, right? So after you've asked yourself, what could you have done better? The next step is we need to come up with a plan.
You know, the third step on that, Ben, would be who do I need to include in that plan? Because in your example that you're just giving, yeah, I've seen you miss the trash can every time you've thrown a curled up piece
You
of
need
paper at
David
it.
Nurse on the job, right? The
Well, I
NBA
was just going to
shooting
say, I was
coach.
going to give you enough credit, Bob, and say
I can help
you
a
need
little
someone like
bit,
Bob who knows how to shoot, or yes, David Nurse, who we've had on the podcast, who's a shooting coach. So a lot of times that third thing I would ask once I've analyzed myself and put together a plan is who do I now need to take along as that person who can help me win next time or be closer to winning?
A coach, a mentor, a peer, a partner, and accountability.
An author who wrote something I need to read about, something like that.
I'll add to that. Or what do I need to bring along?
Yes.
Maybe I didn't have the right tool, the right process, the right technology, or the right system.
And what you're doing right now is, so you said, okay, well, what can I learn from that? And the second thing you're doing now is you're analyzing what happened and what went wrong and how can you change that the next time you come across that competition, essentially.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, we always say that the lack of accounting means the lack of accountability.
Right.
So the next step is after you have a plan, you're going to start implementing something so it doesn't happen again. But if you don't measure it along the way, it's not going to improve. You're going to continue to show up as a loser in whatever that thing is because you aren't tracking and inspecting and holding things accountable. You're going to end up right in the same exact spot.
Absolutely.
Now, is there some chance, Chad, that the end of going through this whole process, we still lose?
Yes.
Maybe it was the wrong plan.
Yes.
Maybe we didn't do it long enough, whatever that might be.
Correct.
Another option is maybe we lost, but not as bad as last time.
Correct. Because there's sometimes someone just has more skill than we do at something. You might have been in one of your wrestlings or your race that you gave us as the example earlier. Okay, you came in second last. Well, maybe next time you still lose, but Ben, this time you only came in third from the bottom. And you can still improve, but that doesn't mean you're going to ever catch the guy up front who's just that much faster than you in the situation.
So maybe part of the wins is at the end when we go through this process, we ask ourselves, well, how did we win this time?
Yes.
How did we improve? What did we do better? Now, let's give one last alternative to this scenario. First scenario, we lost and we want to do something about it.
Yep.
So we came up with a review, a plan, the who we're missing, what we're missing, holding ourselves accountable, reviewing how we did better.
Yes.
But here's another option. Maybe we should just play a different game. Maybe we should wake up for a second and say, I understand that I lost here. Maybe this isn't my game. Maybe this isn't what I was meant to win at. Like physically, maybe there's some things, Bob, that we're just not meant to do, right? Maybe I'm just not tall enough for basketball or fast enough for that thing, but I can find something else that I can win at.
So Ben, talk to us about that for a second. How do we know? I mean, you do it once and you just lose. Is it because you didn't do it well enough, or is it because you shouldn't be playing? How do we make that decision and know when it's the right time to give up on something?
I remember reading this book called Positioning. And it was a marketing book, which you guys should all read. It's a great book. But in Positioning, it said, if you're not number one or number two, find something else you can be number one or number two at. Create a new category or switch categories. So in life, maybe that's what we do. We look at this thing and say, do I actually have a fair chance of winning this? Well, what would be an example? Maybe we do not have a fair chance at competing with Amazon for book sales.
Exactly what I was just thinking about.
But we could own book sales in a very specific niche.
Right.
Maybe we could build the Amazon of children's books.
I think of our friend Courtney Cooper, who's a real estate agent here in the Seattle area, and she's probably never going to be the number one real estate agent in all of Seattle, right? Or she could be one day, but not anytime soon. But she is the number one real estate agent for houseboats in Seattle, right? She dominates this little niche of her market where one day, a long time ago, she just decided that's going to be where I fit in here. That's where I'm going to win there.
It's the story of Nike. I mean, they weren't the number one shoe company just when they were created, but they had a narrow focus and said, we're going to provide the best athletic shoe in this area. And then specifically, we're going to provide the best basketball shoe. And then everything has now turned into what it is.
So the benefits of losing, which we will cover in the next episode, could be as simple as it teaches us maybe what we could actually win at.
Yeah. You know, Ben, our friend, can I call him our friend? Will Smith? Can I say he's our friend? Sure.
He's everybody's friend.
Sure, he's everybody's friend, right?
Yeah, it feels like mine.
Our friend Will Smith had this great quote talking about exactly what you had to say. Let's hear it from him.
You know, it's always a little bit frustrating to me when people have a negative relationship with failure. Failure is a massive part of being able to be successful. You have to get comfortable with failure. You have to actually seek failure. Failure is where all of the lessons are. You know, when you go to the gym and you work out, you're actually seeking failure. You want to take your muscles to the point where you get to failure, because that's where the adaptation is. That's where growth is. Successful people fail a lot. They fail a whole lot more than they succeed, but they extract the lessons from the failure and they use that, the energy, and they use the wisdom to come around to the next phase of success. You gotta take a shot. You have to live at the edge of your capabilities. You gotta live where you're almost certain you're gonna fail. That's the reason for practice. Practice is controlled failure. You're getting to your limit, getting to your limit, getting to your limit. You can't lift that, you can't do that, until you get to the point that all of a sudden your body makes the adjustment and then you can do it. Failure actually helps you to recognize the areas where you need to evolve. So fail early, fail often, fail forward.
So Ben, as he said that, this is exactly what you've been talking about, right? We have to lose to be able to figure out how we can improve. And that as long as we don't quit, it's not really we're not lost. It's just a loss on the way to winning.
The last message for us today was one of my favorite books early on in my career by Seth Godin. Do you remember me handing out the book, The Dip?
The Dip. I have 3 copies of it at home.
The Dip is this super short read. It must be like an hour read total that Seth Godin put out. And it talks about when to quit and when to persevere.
Right.
And that so many people quit right before they get to the top, right before they get to the point where everything would be easier. Maybe 98% of the population quits right before they get there. And in his book, he says there is times that you should quit, and there are times that you should stick it out. And your job is to go figure out which of these times is it. Do us a favor, check out The Dip by Seth Godin. And how do we end all these, Chad?
Well, Ben, we end them all by reminding everybody that it's not lost until you give up. And we won't give up here at Win, Make, Give. We're going to keep bringing you these lessons in season 2 with this focus on winning, even as we talk about losing in this episode and the next. Share it with some other people. Bring them on in so they can hear these lessons. They can learn how to win better. And then come join us at facebook.com/groups/win-make-give so we can keep the conversation going after the episodes have dropped. Until our next episode, remember, as always, do good.